For Criminal Media's Polity, I'm Thabi Madiba, researcher and analyst. Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
The Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula, was reported as saying police should crush criminals' balls and make them drink urine. So what is your view on this?
I've never seen him deny that. I saw it on the website of Times Media, if I'm not mistaken, and of the Times newspaper. And he hasn't denied it. And a number of us on social media attacked this. And it's very problematic because here you have a Minister of Police, and I think he's following a pattern that whenever people become a Minister of Police and they talk to policemen and women, they believe it's necessary to talk tough and to show themselves to be very similar to these tough police. And what he did there is illegal. You can't incite people to assault alleged criminals. They're still alleged, they've not been to court, nothing. Whether this is crude, vulgar, and all of that is one thing. But he has no right to incite them to go and assault these people. And what he really is doing in this is trying to show that basically whatever you do, you have my backing. Now, we are now in a democratic state. It's no longer apartheid South Africa. We're under a constitution, and under the constitution, the police are supposed to operate within the norms of the constitution and the law. And in a situation like this, the minister should be charged because you are not entitled, you're not allowed by law to incite people to do anything illegal. That is happening at the level of the police should make all of us worry, because what it means is even if you are not looking like a rough, tough potential criminal and a policeman does something to you, that policeman is supposed to now know that he will enjoy the backing of the minister. And I think we've got to inculcate a culture in this country where officials in the police, the defense force, home affairs, wherever it is, know that they will enjoy the backing of the minister within the law and the constitution. Within the law, anything. Outside the law, nothing. Also, it feeds into this notion of rough, tough masculinity in the main, because it's mainly men he's talking to. And in South Africa, we have this situation where people don't try to settle things with a minimum use of force or no use of force through reasoning. For example, there are a lot of people who they say were killed and they were actually the person who murdered this one or that one, and you never know because you can't question the dead. And I think we've got to get the situation where people understand, including the police, that they've got a duty to try and settle whatever matter it is, whether it's an arrest or a crowd that is protesting. You have to try to settle it through reasoning, through peaceful methods. Instead of that sort of showing off to the police, the minister should be counselling to them to learn mediation skills to avoid killing people who they may then claim, and we don't know if it's the truth, were actually criminals.
So what must we do about this?
You know, it's very easy to say that it's part of a broader problem of illegality and disrespect for the Constitution, and this will only be sorted out when we drive out Zuma and the other crooks and state capturers and what have you. But that doesn't help the person who's being assaulted today. And it's very important that when you give an answer to a question like this, that you don't make the answer only one that can happen in the far distant future. What I think we need to be doing is, there's a number of organizations that have been formed around tax abuse, corruption, and so forth. We do have some organizations that concern themselves with policing, with crime, things like that. CSVR, Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation, and a few others. And I think one needs to recognize that the scale of violence in this country is really serious. You've got small NGOs that are devoted to the principle of non-violence, Gandhiism, things like that. But we need something more specific. I think there may be a police monitoring organization, but we need to strengthen those organizations and recognize that the problem of violence, the problem of impunity, the problem of police feeling that there are no consequences is very serious. For example, when Parliament held a hearing last week on the police vote, they didn't produce their own statistics, which they've undertaken to do, and they've hardly done it a lot of the time. Secondly, the statistics showed that although funding had been allocated for a range of things, their targets had not been met. IPID figures show there's a large number of police who have been found to have tortured people, beaten them. The number of people who've died in police cells is very high. I think it's increasing. And you have this sense, this 1 in every 27 police is facing one or other charge, according to the evidence presented in Parliament. Secondly, they've set aside 6 billion for settling court cases where people sue the police. So we've got a situation where it's important to develop some organization or organizations, because it needs to be located in a number of different places, where some sort of organization is there in order to monitor police beyond what Parliament is doing and actually mobilize the public against this, because it's not happening to me, because I'm not getting arrested for loitering or some such nonsense, but it's happening actually mainly to black people, and we need to have some protection as citizens. Obviously we must clean out government and all of that, but people can't wait for that.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about policing and legality.